So I'm going to make the first question of this interview. I would like to know when and why you decided to become a drummer.
I grew up in a musical household. My father was a band leader. He had a Dixieland dance band for many years. So I grew up basically around instruments, around horn players. And I believe the first time that it really made sense to me when I was about 3 years old, 3.5 years old, I saw the band rehearse. My father just got a new drummer, fantastic drummer called Dave Rogers, and he had this beautiful Ludwig kit. And I'll just never forget being, 3.5 years old. I'm at the height, probably below the hi-hat, and that's from that moment on, I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Many drummers, of course, but they changed as I got older and appreciated more kinds of music. Then my vocabulary of other drummers expanded. First of all, it would have been the drummers that play with my dad's band. A lot of the big band drummers in the 60s, obviously Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson, Kenny Clare, who was a British drummer, and then people like Joe Morello playing on Take 5 with Dave Brubeck. So all jazz, really mostly jazz drummers, until hang on, let me just push this to silent. Until, of course, I started getting into rock and roll. Chicago Transit Authority was the first rock and roll band I got into, mainly because they had a brass section. So there was a connection there. I really loved the sound of brass. Suddenly there's rock and roll with brass. And the drummer of Chicago was Danny Serafin, who huge influence on me. Another band called Blood, Sweat and Tears, Bobby Colomby, and also another band called Dreams, of which Billy Cobham was the drummer. Or the fusion, fusion style started happening. And of course, Billy was a huge influence with the Mahavishnu Orchestra and his solo albums. Just listen to anybody I could listen to. And that was it. Harvey Mason, who played on Headhunters, Chester Thompson, who played with Frank Zappa, Ralph Humphreys, who played with the Don Ellis band, Steve Bohannon, who was one of the earlier drummers of Don Ellis, and on it went.
Amazing influences. Great drummers. Chester Thompson, he's one of my favorite drummers. He used to play in Genesis, right?
Yes, he did. But before that, he played with Frank Zappa, and of course, he played with Weather Report.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's where, in fact, there's a bit of a story about him joining Genesis, because 1976, I was recording a record with Jack Bruce. This would have been around August, September of 76. And I received a phone call from Phil Collins asking if I would join him in Genesis as the second drummer. And I said, wow, Phil, that's wonderful of you to ask. But the problem is, I'm in a band with Jack Bruce. I'm not just playing on the record. We actually have a band. We've signed to the record company. So I'm actually committed to the touring, which we have lined up for 1977. And he went, oh, okay, well, that's a shame. And it was right after that he contacted Chester, because I think we were all blown away with Chester playing with Frank Zappa. And that's how that happened. And then Phil called me then again. He said, well, look, I'm rehearsing with Genesis. Would you mind rehearsing with Brand X and kind of subbing for me in Brand X for a few weeks? I said, absolutely. So we were both at this rehearsal place outside of London in the countryside called the Farmyard. which became a very famous recording studio. Yeah, we were in one, I was in one room with Brand X, with Percy and John Goodsall and Robin Lumley and Maurice Pert, and Genesis were in the other barn with Chester. And it was really funny. It was great. Yeah.
Oh, amazing story. Why do you use open-handed technique to play the drums? And when did you start using this particular technique?
In 1974, I started using double bass drum. And I was really trying to discover how to play, how to I guess how to make my playing a little bit different from everybody else. I was starting to do a lot of sessions, and I realized that the having two bass drums and two rack toms and two floor toms, it's a bit restricting playing right-handed. And the other thing is, it tends to you tend to play things which are very right-handed type things from technical points of view, you know. And I always wanted to play, I don't know, a little bit differently. I was very influenced by the way that Billy Cobham played, because some of his phrasing was very different. But I didn't know anything about playing with the left hand on the hi-hat until I went to see Billy play at the Rainbow Theatre in London in probably October 1974. Average White Band were supporting, and of course Robbie McIntosh was playing was playing drums with them, and beautiful drummer too. But Billy came out, and I was stunned because he was playing left hand on the hi-hat. And he had 4 rack toms and 3 floor toms and a gong drum, and I was like, oh shit, that's what I want to do. And I didn't know whether it was even possible to change from right-handed to left-handed, because I didn't know whether Billy had always been left-handed or whether he changed. So, and I was trying to find as many records with Billy playing sessions on. And then early 1975, I was on tour with my band, the band I was in then, Chopin, and we played a gig with Return to Forever.
Wow.
And there's Lenny White playing lefty, and I'm going, oh man, I'll have to play like that. I've got to learn how to play like that. And I didn't know whether it was possible. And I started relearning how to play drums. And I did it mostly in my apartment in Kensington on the arm of a sofa. And a lot of it was done by listening to the sound of the stick hitting the arm, how different it was to the right hand.
Exactly.
And so I'd play a rhythm right-handed, and then I'd play it left-handed and try to match the sound of the left hand to the right hand and vice versa, right hand to the left hand. About midway through 1975, my band broke up, Chopin, and I went back to doing sessions again. And that's when I started playing all these sessions, attempting to do them left-handed. So people on the session, obviously, you know, how old was I? I was 18 years old, and I was reading charts and playing sessions. But not only that, I was making it doubly hard for myself because I was trying to play left-handed as well. But, you know, at 18 years old, you're stupid enough to do it and clueless enough to do it. Most of the music, frankly, was very simple to play. It was the disco era. So most of the sessions I was doing was a disco beat. And I had pretty much figured out how to play that left-handed and how to play the snare, you know, so it's very consistent. I knew what was required to play in the studio, the consistency of everything, you know, your kick drum, your snare, you know, everything that you play must be very deliberate. So it records well. And that's how I started. I still had a ride cymbal on my right-hand side, just in case. And if I needed to, I could quickly swap to right-handed as well. So that's how it started. It was 21 years of my life. It was, well, it went through many phases. When I joined the band, of course, I didn't know then whether the band would even continue or whether I would continue with the band. The mission was to fill in for Jeff for the first tour for Kingdom of Desire. It was about 2 weeks into the tour that Mike Porcaro approached me and said, "How do you feel about joining the band full time?" And I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. And we did the tour, and it seemed like that's what the band wanted to do. They wanted me to become a full-time member. And at that point, the band was only a 4-piece. It was Luke, Dave, Mike, and Jeff. And of course, you know, Jeff sadly passed away right when that album was coming out. And so I would then become the 4th member. At that time in my life, this would be the right decision. I had tried to be in a band for many, many years, and for whatever reason, it had never worked out. Various. I was asked to join many bands, actually. It just never worked. For whatever reason, it never worked out. So I gave up. I actually gave up thinking about being in a band, and I got a lot more into production, producing records, and of course engineering. That's really what I was doing in England before I left England to go to the States. But I was done with England. I needed a new challenge. I needed a new place to live. And so I had been planning that for 2 years, since 1990. And then Toto came along. It was total coincidence. A lot of people think that I left England to live in Los Angeles to join Toto. But actually, no, I was already going to Los Angeles. It happened at the same time. It was really bizarre how it happened. And I thought to myself, do I really want to become an LA session drummer? No, I've been doing sessions since 1971, if you count the sessions I did with my dad. I played on enough records. I didn't really need to do that anymore. So I thought, you know, joining a band, and especially Toto, this might be the way to go, because the playing, the wonderful musicians, the music's great, and there may be opportunities for me to bring the other things that I do to the band, being the production, the engineering. So that's how it started. And then, of course, fast forward to the late 90s. We've done 2 albums now, 3 actually. And then suddenly I'm engineering. I'm mixing live in Amsterdam, the DVD. I recorded 2 albums in my studio, Through the Looking Glass, which was a covers album we did in the early 2000s. And then Falling in Between, which we did at my commercial studio, which eventually I got. So it became, I was a co-producer and an engineer of Toto, which was what I needed. Just being a drummer of the band was not enough, you know. And of course a co-writer as well. So I became very, very involved. And then, you know, time went on, and things started to happen in the band. You know, David Page couldn't always come out on tour with us. And then Mike Porcaro sadly got quite sick. And then we lost him. We lost Mike. It was a tough time for the band. And I just felt, okay, I think I've got my solo career. I've got my production, which I want to do. I need to do some different things now. So I decided to become once again, a freelance musician. And I left the band. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I am mixing a record, which I'm producing. We recorded it last year in Switzerland, Zurich. It's another album for an artist called Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a prog rock record with a lot of vocals. And it's really a really good record. I'm really excited about it. I think I've mixed, I've mixed 5 songs so far. So I've got another 7 to do, I think. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I just finished a tour with Protocol 5. We did a short European tour. We actually played in Milano. We played at the Blue Note. And we recorded that show and we shot it as well. So later on in the year, I don't have time to do it now, but I'll listen to the recording, and hopefully it's good enough, and I'll mix it, and then we'll have to edit the video. So that could be something coming out towards the end of the year. But right now, I'm not even touching a drum kit. It's I'm back into engineering mode and mixing this record. So that's what's coming up next.
It has been a tremendous honor for me making this interview and talking with one of my idols, one of the persons that influenced my playing on drums.
Thank you.
I admire your ¿cómo se dice? The level of the volume that you use. You can
dynamics.
The dynamics. The dynamics.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. It's so musical.
Thank you.
Incredible. The sound of your drum set, and obviously your career is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's been an amazing experience for me and for all the people here in Mendoza. They're watching you. So
lovely, great.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We keep in
touch.
All
right. Okay. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.